Hello, my name is Cecilia Wallerstedt, and I will give you the second lecture of two on play-responsive early childhood education and care. In this part, we will focus on how the theory can be used in preschool. So we will take more of a preschool teacher's perspective. To say that you use play-responsive teaching as your method, you may have these four statements as guiding principles. First, to focus on communication and responsivity. Second, to take an inclusive perspective on play. And thirdly, to prioritize and develop narrative play. And fourthly, to focus on children's right for sustainable development. Note that this doesn't say anything about what the content you may choose to work with, if you have a certain theme, if you focus on the arts or choose to be outside as much as possible, or if you document your work in a special way or something else. What is in focus is the kind of interaction with the children that you strive for. If you want to claim that you work with play-responsive teaching, you can, for example, start to discuss these principles with your work team. How do we interact with children? You can ask a colleague, will you observe me during the next playtime? Or if it's possible, you might record yourself or a colleague to be able to analyze the qualities of your interactions. This is to focus on communication and responsivity. And you should also start to think about discussing your work team and reflect upon play. What is our assumption of play? Do we categorize it in certain ways as guided or free? Or are we open for any signals from the children that this is play, as Niklas Pramling explained in the previous lecture? Are we becoming participants in play, like in the example with the letter thief that Niklas showed? Do we trigger the children's fantasy? It is also important to pay particular attention to narrative play. That is play where you can take roles, co-narrate a story together, let things happen that couldn't happen in real life, and where you are taken to places that might even exist. It is in this kind of play where children can participate. Their ability to take other people's perspective and think in terms of what if, that is a crucial ability in education for sustainable development. As Niklas also mentioned, it is important to let all kinds of play be included in preschool or kindergarten. Also when children play alone or with peers, but as an adult, not to take part in these kinds of play, on some occasions at least, will mean a lost opportunity if you're considering the last guiding principle, to enact children's right. As you know from the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child, children have the right to play, but what is made possible through play-responsive teaching is also to enact children's rights in play. In this presentation, I will give you two examples, and then we will point at how the guiding principles can come to the fore in practice. So, here's the first example. It consists of 4 related occasions that the teacher has recorded herself. She had tried to follow a theme in the play with the children for a longer time, and this is what happened. On the first occasion, she had initiated an activity to play a board game with the children. They are young, 1 or 2 years old. But already from the start, one of the children takes the activity in an unexpected direction, that is an example of alterity. One little boy focuses not on the game but on the snails and show an interest in sing a song about the snail that is part of the teachers and the children's chair repertoire. It goes like this, and it's in Swedish. Lilla snigel, akta dig, akta dig, akta dig. Lilla snigel, akta dig, annars tar jag dig. The little boy mentions akta dig over and over again. That means watch yourself, look yourself. On the next occasion, the teacher has prepared an activity in response to the first one, that is to sing the song. So no board game anymore. They do so, and the teacher taps the pulse to the music like this. Do, 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 do. One child then brings a toy, as you see in the picture, that you can use for carpenting, to hammer. But he starts using this as an instrument. More children join, and they also begin to sing new songs to the same beat. A musical play activity are becoming established, built on the beating of the pulse, and they also start to dance to the music. Then the teacher also mentioned that it is the pulse they are tapping, and in that way introducing a musical concept. So, what can we learn from this? How can this quite simple activity be said to be an example of play-responsive teaching? It is teaching in the sense that the children and the teacher are focused on something third, together, the pulse, and it is an activity that is responsive to play. That is, the learning object is part of the play, a play that consists of playing musically together and to pretend that the toy is an instrument. If we focus on the teacher's role in the communication, what does she do? She, firstly, work on creating intersubjectivity. And note that this is not the teacher's concern, of course, since it is a relational concept. But we can notice how the teacher listens and responds to also children's bodily expressions. This is of particular importance since many children here are pre-verbal. And the teacher and the children also share a frame of reference. And that helps. It is because the teacher has actively introduced the children to songs on previous occasions. What the teacher also can do is to investigate what the children are interested in, what YouTube clips do they watch, what computer games are they interested in, what TV programs do they follow. If sharing a repertoire, as here, it becomes more easy to understand each other. There is also consistency between activities. One occasion builds on another, and this helps creating a meaningfulness in the situation and making this quite short activity part of an education in a long-term perspective. And another thing important for the communication and responsivity is how the teacher uses meta-communication. She weaving together different initiatives to a common play activity, for example, carpeting and dancing, and also the here and then. Yesterday we did this, do you remember the snails? And today we are going to sing, and so on. And this is also part of making something common among the participants and meaningful. And in the end, by meta communicating like this, do you hear? I'm playing the pulse. She makes it possible for the children to appropriate a musical terminology, useful also beyond this local situation. So it's not only that she does things, she also communicates about what they are doing. Okay, so how can we see the role of play in this situation? Well, first, it's worth noting that there is an openness for that Playing a board game can become a musical activity. So this openness is important. And there's also a possibility to act as if the toy is an instrument. And in the same time, they try to sing the song as is it is. And note that the teacher encourages and facilitates in both dimensions, both as is and as if. And this is an important notion on teachers' role according to play-responsive teaching. So, okay, now we have talked about the first principle. Let's go on for the first and the second. Let's go on for the third principle. To prioritize and develop narrative play. Among different kinds of play activities, narrative play is of particular importance, especially if one focuses on education for sustainability. I choose this picture to make you think about experiences of narrative play that you may have by your own, and to think of what it is and what it could be. I'm sure you have your own memories that you can relate to. This was me and my daughter playing when she was young, inspired by the space, maybe from a TV program or a book. We pretended to be astronauts, and I made her an astronaut costume, actually. Most of the narrative was about we planning for the space flight. As you see here, we had packed animals, blankets, things that we pretended to be food. We were thinking about how it could be to be on a space flight, what it would feel like, what could happen. There was a chance for us to be someone else and go somewhere else than would have been possible in reality. This is typical for narrative play. One could practice the ability to think in terms of what if. And that is a crucial ability in building a sustainable society. What if it was me? What if it was different? And what if we could handle this in another way? Of course, children can practice these kinds of thinking of their own, and probably they do. But remember that if you as an adult join or initiate these kinds of play scenarios, you can also contribute to make the play become even more full of fantasy, or maybe introduces facts or questions that can help develop the activity. For example, I can ask, do you know that if you walk in the space, you are weightless? Should we pretend that we walk on the moon and imagine what that would look like? Okay, we have now established the idea that communication is important and that we need to be aware of children's perspective, how we could reach into subjectivity, at least temporarily, if there is room for us and the children to try alterity, if we use meta communication in a meaningful way, and so on. We have stressed the importance of play and seen how play is characterized by an openness and switches between as if and as is. We have also pointed out the potentiality of playing narrative plays together with children. Finally, we will mention how children not only have the right to play according to the United Nations Conventions of the Rights of the Child, but also that if we play with children, we can also enact children's right to express themselves in play. This is one important aspect of play-responsive teaching, and this we will show by using another analytical framework developed by Laura Lundy. She has conceptualized Article 12, the children's right of expression, in 4 dimensions that all quite easily could be acted upon in play. Children need space, voice, an audience, and influence. Let's look at an example. Once again, this is an absolutely ordinary play situation between an adult and a child playing with My Little Ponies. You may hopefully see yourself in the situation, and by this you can reach an awareness of how important the role of an adult can be with only small movements. Okay, the play starts like this. The adult takes a horse and says in a play voice, "Hi, hi!" In this way, the adult initiates the play through entering it in the as-if dimension and triggers the child to pretend himself to act with the horse. The child responds to this, saying, "Hi!" But then he immediately switched to the as-if dimension, starting to focus on the size, saying, "It is almost bigger than Dad." The adult confirms this by repeating what the child just said. Then the child goes on, building the narrative. "No, that's the mom." The adult confirms also this, and the adult continues to try to act in role by making a noise as a horse. And then the child once more switches to the as-if dimension, making statements of the color. And then the size again. He compares the sizes of the horses. And big, look! Through this very simple dialogue, we see, firstly, that the common play between the child and the adult is an opportunity, a space for expressions. Here, it might not be so remarkable things that the child expresses view about the sizes of the ponies, but you see the principle and get the point. The children could, through play with adults, be given voice, and by the adult inviting the child to narrate, to participate, and confirm the child's contributions, the child is facilitated to express his or her view. Okay, let's continue. The story of the play goes on, and once more the adult takes the initiative to take the story a step forward, suggesting that it is morning and that all the ponies are going to wake up and have breakfast. The child then makes resistance within the play frame by saying that his little pony slept like a stick. Here he plays with words. He also invents a new word, flat as a flat sausage. Quite strange. In doing so, he also makes a body movement with the horse and let it fall down. And then he also made the story be about the ponies jumping on a trampoline. This is a clear example of authority and responsiveness by the adult, because she leaves the idea of making breakfast for the ponies and follows the child's idea of the play being about trampolines. In this way, the child has an audience for his ideas, he is listened to, and he also has the chance to influence, in this situation, the play. Again, even if this is just a simple example, it serves as an illustration of a very important principle. To build a sustainable society, we need democratic citizens, and this requires a sense in them of belonging, a sense of being someone whose suggestions counts, whose perspectives are taken into account. And where should children start to learn this, if not from their central activity in life, in and through play? So, let's summarize. Talk to children, listen to them, and be interested in what they have to say. Play with children. Let children bring their different experiences and introduce them to new challenges and ways of seeing. do not only scaffold learning in the as-is dimension, but also triggering fantasy, the as-if dimension in joint playing. Playing together lays the ground for democratic citizenship. And I will also remember, as Niklas did, about where you can read more about this. We have a book, Open Access, Play Responsive Teaching in Early Childhood Education. And here is also a book chapter that Niklas recently have been written. And finally, here you also have my homepage and my email address. And here is also Niklas' address. That was a project leader of this project. So, thank you very much for listening and good luck with your work.